breaking news at 6 a.m. Colorado's economy is strong compared to the other states. The factors economists are touting in a just released report.
Ketamine is now banned in Aurora, and now city officials are considering something else to replace the powerful sedative.
I'm Jessica Crawford. It's called droperidol, and it's already being used in the metro. What you need to know about this alternative.
Thousands of students are making their way back to school, but they're being shut out of school buses.
I'm Denver 7's Veronica Acosta. Bus driver shortages mean some students are being put on wait lists just to be able to get to school. The solution one school district has for that problem.
And the Broncos are sharing the field today at the UC Health Training Center. The Dallas Cowboys are here ahead of their preseason matchup. It'll be the first game under a new ownership group making history.
My dad was a football coach when I was born. I have to think that today he's thinking, she finally got a really important job.
Oh gosh, from the Secretary of State there.
Yeah.
Wow, a great comment there from Condoleezza Rice. It's a Broncos sunrise today over the Front Range. Yeah, you can see the shades of blue there and obviously the orange. Thanks for joining us. Of course, we're going to be back up near triple digits once again today.
Yeah, a lot of sun out there, and we enjoyed all the rain, Lisa, and it doesn't take long for things to heat right back up and dry right back out.
Yeah, good 36 hours and it's already again, crispy out there.
Yeah.
And it's gonna stay hot through the weekend. Today though, we could see some record-breaking heat. We'll talk more about that in just a minute, but here's your patio forecast. By lunchtime, we're already gonna be well into the 80s, upper 80s, 90s through dinner time, early dinner out on a patio, you're gonna find some low to mid 90s. Highs are gonna be right around 95 to near 98 degrees. It's Jason's favorite. It's boy band hot out there this afternoon. 98, Platteville 98, 70s and 80s for the foothills and mountains, so pretty toasty out west. Now the mountains will pick up a few more thunderstorms today, but pretty warm. The record high is 97, so we're gonna get pretty close to tying, if not breaking it. We'll see 90s through Sunday. It gets a lot cooler next week. I'll have your full weekend forecast on the Super 7-Day Plus. I'll show you when those temps drop coming up in just a few minutes.
Could I name a 98-degree song? No.
Never.
I could not. Definitely not. All right, so right now we do have a pretty good drive here across downtown Denver. You can see that from Air Tractor 7. So there's Meow Wolf. So this is Colfax right here, and this is the southbound side of I-25. It's really interesting how they tucked it right back in there. I talked to CDOT about that, if they have to do any redesign of the interchange because of that, and eventually they're going to have to rebuild part of those ramps. Anyway, southbound I-25 looks good. 6th Avenue looks pretty good. And you can see from the overall map that the heaviest drive is here on I-76 and 270. Very typical stuff for us here as traffic continues to build for us. We have one crash out here to the east side of town. It's going to be here at Buckley, just a little bit north of Iliff at Evans, so that's going to cause you a slight slowdown if you're over in that neighborhood right now.
Some breaking news just in this morning. Colorado's economy is doing well compared to the other 49 states. CU Boulder's Leeds School of Business report is out for the second quarter, and our state added 104,000 jobs this year so far. Our labor participation was the second highest in the nation.
Yeah, some pretty good news there for Colorado, who also ranks above average in other key performance indicators like GDP, income, and home price growth. Although experts warn there are risks already impacting the rest of the country's economy, and that could impact us locally, like inflation rate, labor, and trade.
Well, today, a big debate in Aurora. The city council will hear about a plan to replace the drug ketamine. Officers used that powerful sedative on Elijah McClain before he died in 2019.
I want to bring in Jessica Crawford this morning because with ketamine now banned since Elijah's death, Jessica, the city is looking at an alternative now.
That's right. It's called droperidol, and it's not new. It's something that's already widely used even by Denver EMS. So it's an antipsychotic, and it's a rapid sedative used in intensive care treatment and where agitation, aggression, or violent behavior are present. Aurora City Council is discussing the use of that drug today as an alternative to ketamine. In 2020, Aurora City Council banned the city's emergency responders from using ketamine during an independent investigation. It showed paramedics improperly evaluated Elijah McClain's condition before they injected him with ketamine and incorrectly estimated his weight. Medics gave him 500 milligrams of the drug. That's a dose that's recommended for a 200-pound person. McClain weighed just 143 pounds. He then went into cardiac arrest before dying in the hospital a few days later. Aurora City Council agenda says the city's contemplating the use of doperidol because it is a sedative that can be difficult for emergency responders to transport and help patients if they're violent or agitated and not sedated, and it helps EMS providers safely determine the kind of care that a patient needs. Droperidol also has its side effects, though. Doctors do say that people would have to be aware of possible heart complications, and similar to ketamine, they're going to have to make sure that they closely evaluate a person's weight before they administer the drug. Live in Aurora, I'm Jessica Crawford, Denver 7.
And this is just the beginning of our conversation on the use of ketamine by law enforcement. So we'll have stories all day on the drug and the community's reaction to the use of this sedative. You can watch that on air on our website, thedenverchannel.com, and on the free Denver 7 Plus app for your streaming device.
It's back to school today for thousands more kids in the metro. Thornton, Brighton, Commerce City, Greeley, Evans, and others go back. The 27J school district is opening a brand new school today in Commerce City. It's called South Lawn Elementary. Phase 1 is opening day, has room for 400 students. Phase 2 is still under construction but should be done by the end of September. The school will include art and music rooms, several playgrounds, and a synthetic turf field. In West Greeley, meanwhile, there's a new pre-K to 8 school called Toynton Academy of Pre-Engineering. It'll focus on, of course, engineering across all content areas of that. And students at Greeley West High School will be in some new classrooms today. The school has been rebuilt, so you'll still see some fencing and construction work out there. They're trying to get asbestos in the old school removed before demolition. Many of those school kids should be able to take the bus, but staffing shortages are forcing them to find other rides. Denver 7's Veronica Acosta joins us, and Veronica, one school district told you they're pulling out all the stops to find drivers.
They are, and we're talking about 27J. It is a big day for the students a part of the school district because they are finally, or maybe some of them really don't want to go back to school, but it is that big day. And here behind me, these aren't the students that we're talking about necessarily this morning. These are seniors out here, enjoying that senior sunrise day. This is also a spot where elementary students will eventually gather later this morning. It's one of their bus stops. The problem is because of bus driver shortages, a lot of students in the district had to get on a wait list to even be able to get on one of those buses to then be able to get to school. Other school districts across the state, they're offering things like $2,000 signing bonuses, but for this school district, that's just not an option.
Unfortunately, we can't compete, and that's because we just don't have the funding that's needed.
Now, officials at 27J say in order to be considered fully staffed in their bus driver department, they need at least another 20 drivers with both CDL and non-CDL licenses. The school district also needs another 21 paraprofessionals, or those bus monitors, to support students on buses. The school district had similar issues last year. They tried canceling as little routes as possible. They actually ended up pulling anyone with the proper license to go ahead and drive one of these buses. It's something they say they plan on having to do again this year.
We have a number of people in our transportation department in addition to school bus drivers. We have mechanics, we have schedulers, we have office clerical staff. And on days when we are really short, those people put their tools away and they grab a bus route and they drive those routes.
And on the topic of school buses, Colorado actually recently passed funding for a $65 million electric bus grant program. Meanwhile, the federal government also really thinking about this kind of new transportation, these electric buses. They're offering a $500 million in rebates for school districts that go ahead and get their hands on some of those buses. They do have an application process open for that. It's going to be open all the way through next Friday. We're in Thornton this morning. I'm Veronica Acosta, Denver 7.
A heads up, because today is your last day to see the Broncos at open training camp, and the team will be joined by the Dallas Cowboys for a joint practice today. The two teams have their preseason game on Saturday at Empower Field, and today's practice is a little later than normal. It is from 11 to 1, so the gates will open at 10 instead of 9 this morning. Meanwhile, it was an historic moment for Broncos country and really the entire NFL yesterday when the Broncos' new owners introduced themselves. Almost everyone was there except for Lewis Hamilton, who's in the middle of his Formula One season, Melody Hobson, the chair of the Starbucks board, and Dr. Condoleezza Rice, former Secretary of State, becoming the league's first two black female owners.
Very cool there. Here's a look at how the new owners will run things. We learned that Rob Walton's son-in-law, Greg Penner, will be the CEO. He's going to be the boss here in Denver. One of his first priorities will be to hire a team president to help with day-to-day decisions. The owner will not have a formal board of directors, but we've learned Joe Ellis will no longer be GM. Instead, he'll help the new owners in an advisory role this season.
Yeah. Exciting moment as the new era kicks off. The ownership group spoke to the players before practice yesterday to share their vision about the future of the team, and safety Justin Simmons says he was impressed and appreciates the diversity of the group.
What an inspiration, you know, I think for so many people. I mean, there's little girls out here whose dad plays on the team, and when they can look up, you know, ownership of the Broncos, they can see someone that looks just like them.
So our Denver 7 sports team will have the latest from training camp tonight, right here on Denver 7 News. Lisa.
It is now just about 6:12, and if you're heading out there today, again, gates open at 10 o'clock. Here's your training camp planner. By 10, we're going to be in the upper 70s. It's going to be a hot practice. Right around 11 o'clock, low to mid 80s, and then we're going to be in the low 90s by 1 as things get wrapped up. Highs today right around 98 degrees. We'll take a closer look at that and how things will cool down a bit this coming weekend coming up.
And if you're up around 285 in Conifer, right over there by the Staples and the O'Reilly Auto Parts store, it sounds like there's a car into a ditch and it might even be on fire. So the fire department's heading there now. We have the helicopter heading that way to go take a look. Right now, we're just a little bit, I guess a little bit east of there. It looks pretty good here on 285, but we'll have some restrictions, could see some restrictions in there. Have a better look at it from the helicopter coming up in just a little bit.
Your wallet's getting a break for now, at least. The national average for gas is officially under $4, but we're already learning of another factor that could drive prices back up.
Well, we've all seen the construction around DIA, and now the Great Hall project has been delayed several years behind schedule. Who a new report is blaming for those delays.
And coming up, a 20-year-old college student with cerebral palsy has had a historic season in track. I'm introducing you to him and his family down in Littleton.